CIA offers to buy out entire workforce as part of Trump makeover. Did you hear about that?
I did hear about that, but I haven't seen enough detail. The entire workforce, I guess, I'll be honest. Am I going to really get rid of a guy that's 20 years doing analytics on intelligence and replace him not at all, or with who? I mean, part of the workforce, I have to say, until I see some more details, I would like to see the plan. Let's put it that way, because I mean, I've been in corporate America, or was in corporate America, and when I saw a new boss come in and say, "Well, I'm going to fire everybody and start all over again," it
Yeah,
never went well. Even if you were one of the five guys that got left. Um,
right. Well, I guess part of the question is like, how deep does the rot go? Because I totally agree with what you're saying. We need an intelligence apparatus. We need to be the best at knowing what's going on around the world. But it seems like the CIA has become this like kind of monster that got away from us. Where even like sometimes the director of the CIA doesn't know everything that's going on, and then the
yeah,
president doesn't know what's going on, and you have like these lifelong careerists there who kind of know all the secrets. I mean, how do we kind of get a handle on that?
I would say that the areas that I've always been most concerned about are like psychological operations and
Hmm.
propaganda. You
Like
know,
Operation Mockingbird.
yeah, that does it work sometimes for a short period of time, not for long. And I don't think it's wrong. I mean, certainly it's wrong to do it domestically. We
Do you
even
think they
got
still
into the
do it?
case. I'm sorry, what?
I was gonna say, do you think they still do it? Because that kind of like leads into something else we're gonna talk about.
Yeah, they do it, and sometimes they always. It's kind of like the media. You've got to have sources, right? So you share
Hmm.
information to get sources. Well, the CIA always share. I mean, it gets embarrassing. Sometimes I wrote about a couple of occasions where a CIA media source wrote about a revolution before it happened. That's embarrassing. Okay, wait a minute. No, no, the head. No, people are going to think we did that. Well, yeah, we did.
Yeah.
But so there are areas like that where you're trying to manipulate things through the media, through propaganda, whether it's domestically or internationally. I think you can even look at it and say what works and what doesn't work, and stop doing that sort of thing. So,
Right.
but as far as the rot goes, I tend to think it's more in that side of the house. It's not in the collections. It's not the analyst. It's not the reporting. Intelligence intelligence analysis requires a lot of work and requires a lot of data. There's not much room for. I mean, and you offer your opinion, and people either take your opinion or don't take your opinion or your assessment. I think it's over on the other side. It's on the covert side, especially in psychological operations. Uh, and quite frankly, these days, if you have to do a covert deniable military operation, we have people to do that. Now,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
interesting, yeah, they're there. They're Delta Force. They're whatever. Use them if you need them.
But I think we also have, we'll have like private military companies that'll do things that aren't exactly legal for even the Delta Force to do. And then I think it seems like a lot of these NGOs were doing the same thing where they act on behalf of the government to do things that are outside the legal parameters of what the government can do. Uh, so I don't know if you've ever seen this before, but this story right here, or this situation that Obama did, always fascinate me. So right here we have an article from AP saying the headline says Obama did not sign a law allowing propaganda in the US, but on the fact side of it says the facts. Post circulating on Facebook with the photo of Obama falsely states he repealed a ban on government propaganda in the US when he signed the National Defense Authorization Act in 2013. The amendment did not repeal the Smith-Mond Act, but rather lifted some restrictions on the domestic dissemination of government-funded media. So, then today when you hear what it was found that Politico did, then it, like, because I know, like, we have NPR, we have these groups that we know the government gives the money. Okay, fine, we're all on board. We know that, but then they come out today with this.
On coming out here to the briefing room, I was made aware of the funding from USAID to media outlets, including Politico, who I know has a seat in this room. And I can confirm that the more than 8 million taxpayer dollars that have gone to essentially subsidizing subscriptions to Politico on the American taxpayers' dime will no longer be happening. The DOJ team is working on canceling those payments now. Again, this is a whole of government effort to ensure that we are going line by line when it comes to the federal government's books. And this president and his team are making decisions across the board on, do these receipts serve the interests of the American people?
So, yeah, it's found today when they're looking through the books that this USAID thing has been given $8 million a year to Politico, and then they find out that the Politico Pro subscription costs between $25,000 and $75,000 a year, and the Biden administration was paying $26 million a year for the Politico Pro. So, I mean, that seems like the government giving money to a media company to make them say certain things.
Yeah, and not that the strange thing about that, I guess what strikes me, the strange thing about it's not, as we were just talking, it's not that there was not media influence before, but it was usually a quid pro quo thing. I'll provide you some information and you be cautious about what you're saying. It's
right.
But nobody was paying for anything.
Right.
This is really strange. And domestically, now, an interesting thing is there have been times, like with this democracy initiative that I was talking about, that sort of thing happened overseas.
Right.
And it was legally approved, but that's a different story. Or normally what she's just talking about, and I'm normally a big fan of these, IGs should catch that sort of thing. Inspector generals are there to literally go line by line and make sure the money that Congress appropriated is being used the way it was supposed to.
Right.
One of the problems that we've had in the past is continually IGs have submitted reports within their agency that said things should change, things should have. One of the biggest, you go back to Iraq. I mean, there's never been more money wasted and reported on by IGs and with no consequences than Iraq. Although, I suppose it's possible, but that's what IGs are for, to do that internally within an organization. You shouldn't have to have a separate group. The IGs, and you have to listen to them. When they say it's being misused, you have to listen to them. I have to admit, I don't know that USAID had an IG.
Well, I'm hearing stuff now that the Congress had a really difficult time even getting their hands on the books for them, and that they would, often kind of like act like it was classified money or classified details to even look at their stuff.
That's one of the, obviously being a documents geek, I'm a big fan of transparency, right?
Yeah.
And not overclassification. And we got to say that national security has been used to conceal a number of sins. The big thing is, here's USAID supposedly working overseas. What is it doing? What is it doing that would be classified? What would it be doing off the books? Did the CIA, did somebody else? Why should there even be anything classified at all? So that's a big question to me. I don't disagree with that at all. I can't. That money should be as easily tracked as in a public corporation. You should have an accounting company. That's another question. Obviously, normally agencies have accounting departments that are very rigorous about that sort of thing. So if USAID wasn't doing that, it's not like, I'll have to say, CIA, the military services, NSA have been my personal focus. So I'm not in any position to give you in-depth details of things within USAID. I just know how they've generally operated. But that needs to be fixed.
Yeah, and we're seeing stuff like this come out where like terrorist groups are in tents that have USAID logos on them. I mean, and you see the list of the was it like millions of dollars of condoms that went to Gaza and all this crazy stuff. So it's like, it feels like a big giant money laundering thing right now, because like there's no oversight on it. It's like who's getting kickbacks
Well,
on these things. Like it, and
here's
the fact that everybody's freaking out so much, it's like they've hit a major nerve by going after this. Cause like you see what they're doing in DC right now, like they Democrat Congress people and like saying like, we need to fight right now. We need to like, they want to impeach Trump over this. They're talking about impeaching Trump. They're telling millions of people to come down to DC and protest. They're trying to go inside the buildings. Like it's like, they're really upset about this for some reason. We're just asking like what the money's being used for.
Yeah, well, first of all, I am a big fan of separation of powers. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so we can get,
Yeah.
but that's a separate argument. I guess the kicker is if you're just looking at the books, as it were, and you have authority to look at the books, and everybody's, okay, that's fine. Um, I I wanted, but not necessarily in USAID's defense, but one of the problems has always existed for both the CIA on the covert side and USAID on the overt side is the logistics of delivering stuff. Because
Mm.
you kind of think that people that are getting the stuff, um, they want the stuff. Yeah. Do they want food? Do they want medicine? Do they want tents? Do they want, sure they want it, but there's always somebody on their side who's in between. So if I'm USAID and I manage to deliver it to somebody who promises to give it to the right people, do I know that tent? And by the way, who has the guns? And we've seen that in Gaza. I can
Yep.
give out all I want, but the guys that have the guns tend to collect it so they can dispense it. So
Yeah.
I will have to say, the devil's always in the details. So you can do good things and have bad results. An example of this, I think, back during the Afghanistan and those conflicts, when the Russians were in Afghanistan, we sent a lot of money to Pakistan.
Right.
Sent a lot of money to Pakistan to go to revolutionary action against the Russians. Where did
Yeah.
that money end up going? Well, the intention was to equip people to kill the Russians.
The
Okay,
Mujahideen.
the Mujahideen, right? Instead, the people that got to it first were the people that started ISIS. And
Yeah.
it's like, you know, that's one of the problems with trying to do this deniably. If you try to finesse things, you always get had. So I'll reserve my, yeah, I know things would have gone wrong, and probably, no good deed goes unpunished. So I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Do you think this is the kind of just the tip of the iceberg of the things that we're going to find out? Because I mean, it seems like we've just turned our head the other way with a lot of the stuff for a long time. And I mean, I'm a big fan of what they're doing with the Doge because, like, they're trying to scare people, saying, "Oh, they're looking at your social security stuff. That they got access to the Medicare, Medicaid stuff today," which I'm excited about that because that's like, I think that's the biggest, potentially most corrupt pile of money in the world. It's like 1.6 trillion of money that just kind of gets doled out. So I don't know. I'm a big fan of that. What do you think of that stuff?
Yeah, here's here's what I really think. Obviously, as I said before, I've always been a big fan of IGs and a big fan of oversight and a big fan of accounting. Okay,
Yeah.
that should have been happening all the time. We also know about graft and corruption, and it wasn't. So if you can make it happen with a third party who's squeaky clean,
Yeah.
that's good. But people need to be able to trust the third party. This is where the separation of powers. They need to be very, before you do something like that. It's like I've been with accounting firms. It's like, okay, the accounting firm walks in the building and everybody panics. It's kind of
Yeah.
like the bank auditors walk into the building. I used to be a banking consultant, and we walk into the
Hmm.
banking, not on auditing, on some other things. We'd walk in the building in briefcases, and everybody would hide under their desk because they
Ah.
thought we were the auditors. So, but
Yeah.
if you get up front, and I guess my critique at this point in time is that story needed to be told really well at the very beginning. Like, here is why they're here. Here's their limits. Here's all they're doing. They're auditors. They're not.
Right.
They're not giving any orders. They're just looking at data. I think maybe personally, I think that was the problem from the get go that scared people, because you do
Hmm.
scare even people. The people that were hiding under their desk in the banks weren't necessarily doing anything wrong, but they don't know what's going to happen to them. So scaring people's not a good thing. That's my only comment.
I gotcha. That makes sense.